On the 4th episode of Joe's Journey, we got impeccable movement, loads of pew-pew and some cringe roleplay. But if this is your first time watching, be sure to check out the other episodes first. You Muppet.
Hey guys, it's Kusi. Today we got a special episode for you, because today we are going to dive into the new, fresh and insane fun extra content that got added in 10.1.5. But not only that, in this episode you will see carnage on the damage meter, like you have not seen before. We have been pumping like crazy in this Fortified week, so like usual, let's start in the beginning. First we made our way towards a new time walking event that will have you kill a bunch of mobs and then one final boss of a different timeline. Overall, I found this little event a fun gimmick, considering you can grab heaps of transmog if you're into that, and also some solid catch-up items. So we waited for our turn and joined in for the fun. If you do this for the first time per week, you receive a quest that will reward you with some fun stuff. For example, you get tons of currency that you can also use to buy yourself a new themed trinket. We have the Fragment of Doomhammer and the Fragment of Sulphurus for auto attack Andes, the Fragment of Valonir and the Fragment of Zeshanal for our healer friends, while the Fragment of Frostmourne, the Fragment of Azeroth, and finally the Fragment of Thunderfin, Humid Blade of the Tideseeker are more DPS related trinkets. The Fragment of Doomhammer is called differently for Alliance, but does the exact same thing. I've considered to go for the Fragment of Azeroth because I like haste. I simmed all the trinkets that would come to mind and they pretty much all perform the same. Unfortunately, I can't really show you much of the actual final boss of this event, since it was lagging like crazy. But we played this game for a little bit, so we are well prepared. Which means tag the boss and spam heal yourself. Sadly we didn't get anything, and we also didn't get enough Paracautial Plagues in order to get our trinket right away, so we had to wait for another event to occur. What we did get, however, is a dilated time capsule, which can be used in order to grab some veteran gear. Veteran means it goes up to 224 with upgrades. I quickly checked my gear and I decided to go for the hands. The only reason for that was that I wanted to try if you can make tier sets from those, and well, you sure can. But before that, since it's reset, we also got a vault to open, and boy did we prepare. We did 7 LFR bosses for the 3 slots, and also 8 dungeons for an extra 3 in the Mythic Plus row. No way we are getting nothing from this. We sure got lucky, but sort of in the worst way, I'd say. The only viable item here is the shoulder item for sure. We don't need the shield, since we made ourselves a 2-hand weapon, and we also don't want the necklace with mastery on it. The LFR options obviously were too low to consider, but they were just there in case we really don't get anything from the dungeon row. With the shoulders from the vault and the hands from the event, we were able to get ourselves the 4 set after just 2 weeks of doing dungeons. Needless to say, I was a happy boy. But something was bothering our good guy Joe.
It's so hard to meditate when I can't get my head free. I wish Dad was.
What is it this time, Joe?
Oh, it's nothing. I just can't wrap my head around the fact that...
Not this again. Stop with this mage crap. I told you that.
No, that's not it. But did you know that there are so many people out there that won't subscribe even though they enjoyed the video?
What? Even though the button is just below the video, they just forget about it.
I know, right? But I'm not sure if I can just remind them to do it, because...
Screw that, I will do it. Subscribe button. Heed my call.
Huh, that was weird. Anyways, let's catch up. We finished our last week with our depleted plus 13 underroad, which... let's not talk about it. So naturally, we start with the plus 12 key. Balls of Infusion it is. I was very joyful for the first Fortified week, because let's face it, for DPS this affix is a lot more fun than the endless boss fights. And also now we have the 4 set. If you don't know what the 4 set does, it pretty much gives us more Maelstrom and increases the critical damage of Chain Lightning and Earthquake. In short, we can do big pew pew more often. I only had to wait a little bit till my party was stacked with early gamers and we slowly made our way towards the first boss. Slowly being the keyword here. It seems the tank was also unsure of what to expect from Fortified, so I used this time to get better and using my rotation proper, since last week the mobs died so fast that it barely even mattered. Now, since those will be relevant, let's talk affixes for a second. If you don't know, every week there will be a certain set of extra effects happening that possibly change your playstyle. This week we got Volcanic, which lets little volcanoes spawn mostly below the feet of the ranged player, that will knock you up but not avoid it. This is basically just to annoy people, since the damage it does is not really severe. On level 14 this week, we also have Spiteful, which will leave a little ghost behind whenever a trash mob dies, that will randomly select a target to pursue. This can go on everyone except the tank. I mentioned the second affix now, because spoilers, you will see it in action later. Right here you can see me going full on for that green shroom. This thing will grant us a buff that removes the poison effect every 15 seconds, which will come in handy on the next boss. Also, don't be like me. If you play Shaman and you go horse, please spec into the poison dispel totem. People will thank you for it. I'm not really sure what happened here, but after our heal died, our tank also took a dirt nap, which led to us dying. And like a real one, I didn't use my reincarnation to rest the party, but to avoid walking. Hashtag work smart not hard. I will leave occasional trash fights in on purpose, to flex a little bit with the AoE damage, but also since they are just very fun in general. This one pretty much just went wrong again. Let me explain. The Primalist Shock Trooper casts a spell called Elemental Focus, which absolutely needs to be kicked. It will grant them a buff that in short just does hella AoE damage for the party. If they cast it however, you can still remove it with purging effects. You know, the ones Shaman have, or should have. My X hotkey is usually my purge. For some unknown reason it was no longer in my interface and I tried to grab it from the spellbook. Sadly, I was too late, so almost everyone died here. Here I pretty much just sniped as much AoE damage as possible in order to appear important. Bet you've seen that before, huh? On those dragons I can only recommend you using the enhanced Ghost Wolf to remove slows from yourself. That thing hits like a truck, so getting that pressure off of your healer will help him and save you. Kajin is so much easier as a range than a melee, since you barely have any loss of uptime. Even though half of my party really tried to wipe us here. We recovered and finished this by barely holding on to the alive. This next part took a lot longer than it should have, for multiple reasons. First, we moved slightly too slow, so it felt like we had a lot more mobs to kill than needed. Also our healer died, again, which made everyone be extra careful. Luckily we managed to squeeze in a rest, so we didn't have to wait for him. This leads to us barely finishing this key in time. With a dead healer, again, and only 32 seconds remaining, this was a rather short call. And for our pleasure, we got a 13 Underrod. And if we learned something last episode, what happens in Underrod stays in Underrod. But then again, it really can't get worse, right? Just shortly after queuing, I got this prima team of gamers. 2 of them were fairly geared, 2 were not. But I figured since they most likely talk to each other, they will be able to play this proper. We lasted the first pull, because apparently that's what you do in Fortified, and then continue to YOLO pull 2 packs at a time. Keep in mind, the rather undergeared people here are me, the tank and the heal. For some reason I never really got onto the same wavelength of my party. Paired with the confusion of still not knowing what exactly to do with my class, I couldn't perform the way I wanted to. Luckily, this annoying trash room was history rather quick, and even Kragma wasn't standing a chance this week. Nothing went wrong anymore, so we quickly made our way to the final boss. You know, the one that took like 10 minutes last week. Not this week though. We just slapped the blood visages faster out of him than the NPC was able to deal with them. Meaning we finished this with a whopping 3 chests, and with that we got over 1 kill rating. And from one cursed dungeon we went to the next one after receiving a Dragonflight 16 from this run. But first, I wanted to do some raid bosses. I have to mention here, I applied to a normal raid run that was about to start. I did not post any achievements, nor is my gear so high I get invited for sure. However, this happened so quickly that I couldn't even start the recording. I got invited because, quote, "You got a funny name." I was already preparing lies in my head to convince them to invite me, but they were not needed. And since this is more of a dungeon journey, I will spare you with much of the raid. Let me just say, it went hella clean. We also got pretty lucky by receiving a diss ring from Ladarion. And when I say that, I mean very lucky. We beat out a 95 with 100. Even Sakura went clean, and with that we just swiped the place in a clean run. I guess if you do those early in the week, you potentially get good players in your party. And with that, we move to our next dungeon. Remember, I did get the Dragonflight 16 earlier, and I can hear you saying, "But Gusi, surely you won't be reckless enough to do a 16. Hell yeah, we are doing 16, baby. Mainly because I assumed I might get a good player or two, considering some people are farming the Aspect's Shallow Main quest for their gear upgrade. So I gave it a shot. But now we also had to deal with Spiteful, which turned out to be more annoying as I expected at the range. Also, you can tell by my damage output that I started to feel more comfortable with the playstyle. What also makes this week hella fun for us, we can easily just stack up on Maelstrom after every trash pack by just casting on the Ghost. With that, we can just go all out every pull. I love it. I also want to give some props for the tank here, because this absolute weapon of a Demon Hunter just always had grab. And you can see the Paladin on me going close to 300k DPS on some pulls rather quick. On the last trash pull before the first boss, both of us even got this high and the tank still had aggro like a chat. But I can tell you at this point I was feeling myself. So now comes the test every pack group has to deal with. And you will not believe me when I tell you, nothing happened and we just killed it. This next part was hella annoying. Considering all the spiteful spawns, pathings are rather tight, so you always have to be mindful of your position. But we also managed this. Now tree mob. With Bloodlust available and all the cooldowns, we were about to chop the stump to pieces. I've grown to be a lot more mindful of using Stormkeeper enhanced lightning bolts after Elemental Burst, but still my eyes weren't focused on me enough, hence why I just get knocked out by Volcanic almost every time it spawns. The last boss also went very clean, which only lead us to killing some more trash, since they weren't on a necessarily count yet. And with that, we finished our first 16 key on this journey. And Keystone Master? Timing at 15 wasn't the goal of this series, so we move on. Also by the looks of it, we didn't get carried this time, at least in my humble opinion. Up next, an old friend, Vortex Pinnacle. But this is the first time this week and it's Fortified, so you will not hear me complain about this dungeon. Also I lowered it from 17 to 16 because I'm a wussy after all. I don't want to talk about this too much however, since we all know what's going on. Disregarding, look at this. Single target by the way. Or this one. We get better and better with every pull, and I just love to see the improvement with actual numbers. This run overall went pretty smooth, which leads to us two-chesting it while receiving a huge chunk of rating too. Next up, Pulse of Infusion. Again. And again we loaded from 18 to 16. This group was a lot more coordinated however, so we managed to get through barely hard. But for some reason, I just failed to dodge this little ball. I tanked so many of those and always survived with just an inch of my HP, so sorry to my healers. Two-chesting this puppy again grants us 61 rating and an item upgrade as well. But I just face-pumped myself when I saw the 18 I got for this.
When is it gonna end, Robbie?
Vortex Pinnacle. Again. At this point, I'd like to mention that I joined some random guild that is just spam inviting people for all types of things. I didn't do anything with them so far, but now we represent the guild Oblivion. Also this time, I had the pleasure of playing with an Augmentation Evoker, which is a new specialization for our Drakes. Apparently, they don't do much damage by themselves, but they full on support the party to make up for it. Also I've heard that any type of damage meter doesn't really record the amount of support they provide, so don't be fooled by that. And to be honest, since I don't have much experience with them so far, I couldn't even tell you if this guy was good or not. Again, I don't want to show you the same trash packs all over. So instead let's look at this, where I use all cooldowns and prepare myself to nuke the hell out of this pack, all while ignoring being channeled at by the Caliph. You hate to see it. I quickly considered blaming the healer for obvious reasons, but then I just respawned and made my way back. Again, very fortunate with my party. We finished this key easily in time.
Next up is yet another underworld key. Keep in mind I pretty much just play my own keys, because I can't be asked to queue up for ages, just to get into a key I'd like. But if my luck on keys doesn't change, I might do that. So here's a quick montage of me dying to random avoidable stuff for your enjoyment. At least all the bosses went smooth, so we timed this one as well. Which brought a tear to my eye when I saw that I've gotten a new key finally. Freehold 17. But now the game started to bully me. Right after starting the 17 freehold, the entire party disconnected, and after relogging, the dungeon got reset. Overall, the confusion level was pretty high, and since our tank only wanted to do 17s, while our healer didn't bother to reconnect, we had to replace them. This time, someone from a new guild joined as a healer, and we got a tank pretty quickly after. So let's do it again. So far, so good. First boss went fine, second boss went fine, but then it happened again. The entire party DC'd again, which left only a resetted dungeon, a remaining plus 15 freehold, and a devastated Joe behind. And with that, we end our 4th episode. I'd like to apologize in case there was any confusion about the last episode, but I had to re-upload it due to copyright issues. YouTube didn't punish me at all, and even marked the video still as no restrictions, but if the video is flagged, it gets recommended less to other people, so I made the decision to just upload it again. This is our vault for the reset. 3 normal raid boss slots and 2 441 item level items from the Mythic Plus row. I will not complain. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, even though it seems like it's the same 3 dungeons every time. I will apply to more different keys in the future if this won't stop. So with that, I wish you guys the most fantastic day whenever you see this, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.